Humans depend on their natural environment to survive. We need the environment to provide energy, water, food, and other materials. In prehistoric times, people lived in areas where they could hunt, gather food, and find fresh water. Later, people settled where they found pasture for their livestock or fertile soils and sufficient water for farming. Today, rapid transportation and other technologies allow people to be less dependent on their immediate environment. However, people still need access to resources. Water is just one example of a natural resource or a useful material found in the environment. People depend on many kinds of natural resources. These resources can be divided into two types: renewable and non-renewable resources. A renewable resource is a resource that Earth or people can replace. Examples of renewable resources include water, plants, and animals. All of these resources can be replaced over time if they are used wisely. For example, if you cut down a tree, another one can grow in its place. When dead plants decay, their nutrients increase soil fertility. A non-renewable resource is a resource that cannot be replaced in a relatively short period of time. Non-renewable resources include non-living things such as minerals, metal ores, and fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are non-renewable resources formed over millions of years from the remains of plants and animals. Coal, natural gas, and petroleum are important fossil fuels. When non-renewable resources such as fossil fuels are used up, they are gone. Energy resources. Sources of energy are important for human activity. Some sources, such as wind and sunlight, are renewable. Today, we mostly rely on non-renewable energy resources such as coal and petroleum. Because these sources are non-renewable, Earth will eventually run out of them. Some countries have large supplies of petroleum and are able to export it or sell it to other countries. Most countries, however, must buy petroleum and other energy resources from other countries. The ways people use land are affected by both the natural environment and culture. In many regions, land use has changed over time. How people use land depends partly on the environment. For example, people living in temperate climates with fertile soil may use land mainly for farming. People in Arctic areas may use land mainly for hunting. Even in similar environments, however, people may use land differently because they have different customs and ways of life. Land use can change over time. For example, colonization has led to many changes in land use. Colonization is a movement of new settlers and their culture to an area. Settlers may change a region's landscape. For example, European colonists brought new crops and new ways of farming to the Americas, Africa, and Australia. These new ways led to dramatic changes in land use as Europeans cleared large areas of land for cropland and livestock pasture. Since the 1800s, industrialization has changed landscapes in many countries. Industrialization is the development of machine-powered production and manufacturing. Large cities have grown around factories. Technology such as machines for clearing land and building roads has made it easier for people to change their environment. This environmental change has allowed the growth of suburbs. A suburb is a residential area on the edge of a city or large town. In the United States and some other countries, most people live in cities or suburban areas. Although cities and suburbs cover a relatively small area, they are an important use of land. Land uses covering large areas include cropland, forests, and grassland. People's impact on the environment. All people need food, water, clothing, and shelter. To meet these needs, people have to use materials from their environment. As a result, people have impacts on the environment in their daily lives. People extract or remove many kinds of natural resources from the environment. For example, to get wood for building houses, people cut down trees. Advances in technology have allowed people to extract some resources more easily. For example, to get petroleum for fuel, people drilled deep wells, sometimes far into the ocean floor. Extracting resources can harm ecosystems and the environment. For example, cutting down too many trees can cause deforestation. Deforestation is the loss of forest cover in a region. Animals that live in the forest may suffer as a result. Drilling oil wells and transporting oil can lead to oil spills, which harm the land and water. Deforestation and producing oil can also reduce biodiversity. Biodiversity is the variety of living things in a region or ecosystem. People also affect the environment by growing food or producing other goods and services. For example, new technology has allowed farmers to plow more land for crops. But when land is cleared, soil is loosened and can erode or wash away. People's activities can also produce pollution or waste that makes the air, soil, or water less clean. For example, many farmers use chemicals called fertilizers and pesticides to help plants grow and to kill pests. These chemicals can help farmers produce more food. They can also harm the environment by causing pollution. Pollution is a spillover, which is an effect on someone or something not involved in an activity. For example, air pollution affects everyone who breathes the polluted air, even people who did not cause the pollution. People try to increase the positive and decrease the negative effects of using resources. For example, using a resource might lead to economic growth, but also create pollution that needs to be reduced. Working together, people, governments, and businesses can try to use resources wisely. In some cases, governments limit land use to preserve the environment. Advances in technology can also help protect resources and the environment. One way of protecting the environment is for people to use vehicles that burn less fuel, such as hybrid cars. Vehicles that burn less fuel create less air pollution. People can also use clean energy sources, such as solar power and wind power. They are considered clean energy sources because they do